Sega.
What's up everyone, Voan here today, and welcome to Sega Month, February Sega Month. So starting out with Sega Month, we're gonna start with the Sega Game Gears. So this little device here is Sega's answer to the Nintendo Game Boy. Back when Nintendo was all about gaming, they have the NES on the console side and they have the Game Boy on the handheld side. So when Sega was getting into the gaming markets, when Nintendo actually dominates the console gaming markets, Sega brought the Sega Master Systems, and the Sega Master System wasn't doing too good, so eventually Sega shifted away from the Sega Master System, considering that Nintendo took all of the third party with them. So there's no way Sega could convince third party that their hardware is gonna be the better ones, and there's no way that third party is gonna come to Sega, because if they do, they're not gonna be able to make games for Nintendo, which it's not good for their business. So basically Sega eventually went to the Sega Genesis, and they eventually got some third-party supports, but sooner or later the Genesis started getting a lot more popular than Nintendo's system. Third-party has the free will to jump to any platforms now then. So when that happens, Sega decided to think about, okay, so we already got the console market all covered now. Third parties are shifting away from Nintendo's system. They're not gonna take the 8-bit realms anymore. They're not gonna take making 8-bit games anymore. People are starting to get into 16-bit gamings. But the handheld market is still going strong though. The Game Boy still has a lot of ground to cover, and there's not many that worthwhile competitors to the Game Boy. I mean, there's the Lens, but what does the Lens do? It doesn't do the handheld market any justice, and the handheld market really needs another handheld to be there one-on-one with Nintendo, delivering much better gaming offering than Game Boys, and maybe something different for the handheld markets. So yeah, Sega actually went and jumped into the handheld markets, and this is what they came up with, the Sega Game Gears. And basically what Sega do with the Game Gear is that they designed the Game Gear differently from the handheld Nintendo Game Boy. It also it has this horizontal oriented design, but at the same time it delivers pretty much almost the same experience to that of the Sega Master System. So basically what Sega is doing is that they put all of the same processor in the Sega Master System, take them out and put them inside the Game Gear. Not to mention, not only do those processors are the same, but a lot of games that were released on the Sega Master System could very well be ported to the Game Gear. Now that does not mean that the Game Gear is actually a portable Sega Master System. I mean, it is kind of like a portable Sega Master System, but inside the Sega Game Gear is a much higher color palette. You can tell they have the RGB style color icon there to tell you that it's actually have a bigger color palette than that of the Sega Master System, and because of that you cannot port Game Gear games, or you cannot play Game Gear games on the Master System, because it just doesn't work like that. And that's pretty much it. So Sega pretty much made the Game Gears and have it brought into the handheld markets, and have do all kinds of commercial marketing for it. And pretty much all of what Sega touted with the Game Gear is pretty much everything that Nintendo ignored with the Game Boy. I mean, pretty much all of the weak spot about the Game Boy were advertised when they're making the Game Gears or when they're selling the Game Gears. So if you look at the Game Boy right here, this is the original Game Boy, and that right there is the Game Gear. So everything that is wrong with the Game Boy has been a strong advertising campaign, has been a strong pushing campaign for Sega with the Game Gear. So what does the Game Boy not have? Well, the Game Boy has a smaller screen. The Game Gear improved on that by having a bigger screen. The Game Gear does not have color displays on the screen. The Game Gear has color displays. The Game Gear has no backlit screen. Oh, the Game Boy has no backlit screen. The Game Gear has a backlit screen, so you can play in the dark. And the Game Boy, yeah, the Game Boy has a much more vertical oriented design style, similar to that of the Microvision, whereas the Game Gear has a horizontal oriented style, similar to the Game & Watch and the Lens. And pretty much it has a much more comfortable D-pad. It has a more rotating style kind of D-pad compared to Nintendo's ergonomic D-pad. I mean, this D-pad is good too, but there are times where you might feel it kind of loose a little bit, but it is comfortable. And it has a select start buttons, whereas the Game Gear here, the Game Gears only need a start buttons and 2 action buttons. So that's pretty much what the Game Gear has. It has a simple control, a nice simple design, a bigger, better backlit screens, and all of that. However, because the Game Gear has more advanced screens and great mono stereo sound there. On the back of the Game Gear, it has one slot for cartridge games, and this is how the Game Gear game looks like. But as you can see from opposite side of the Game Gear's rear here, there's 2 battery compartments, and each battery compartment holds 3 batteries. So this side you got 3 AA's. On the other side you got another 3 AA's. So it actually takes 6 AA batteries. That is a lot. That is way much more than what a Game Boy would take. So if you look at the Game Boy, it only has 1 battery compartment, but inside you have like 4 AA's, and those 4 AA's, because the Game Boy does not have any of those backlits and advanced screen stuff features in there, you could actually get a whopping 20 to 40 hours out of the Game Boy. Yeah, man, I kept calling it the Game Gear. That's what happens when you call your system game something. Yeah. That's the reason why the Game Boy has a longer battery life, is because it does not have that advanced screen in there. Whereas the Game Gear has a much advanced screen, and it runs through all 6 of these batteries in under 3 hours. So you don't really have that many hours to play your favorite games with this. Of course, you do have the AC adapter, and there are battery charger at the time that Sega sell to help you play your games better though. However, one thing that the Game Gear does better than the Game Boy though, or at least a little bit better, is if you hold it like this, like that, your hands, if you have adult hands like I do, then holding a Game Boy is not really all that comfortable. All your fingers are like all tangled and stuff. However, if you hold a Game Gear, your hands are at opposite side of the handheld, so they never meet, and that holds the Game Gear really good. I mean, it feels good on the hand. You can tell that the Game Gear was designed for people like us, for adults people or teenage people. It doesn't design for the little children like what the Game Boy was touting for. And that's why Nintendo later made this one instead. So this is the Game Boy Advance, and you can tell it finally went back to what it did with the Game & Watch, where you can hold it like that now. So, and yeah, that's pretty much the design of the Game Gear right here. However, design aside, the control works really well. I mean, Sega actually fixed the problem they had with the Master System, where one of these action buttons is the start button. Well, this time the start button is its own button now, so you can press start to pause the game or press start to start the game, unlike the Master System where you press button 1 to start and the pause button is at the console. Well, the console is right here and the pause button and the start button is actually the same now, so good on Sega for that. And this D-pad is a lot better. It doesn't feel that loose compared to the Game Boy one. And down here you got these two little departing here. I don't know what these are for, but I'm pretty sure that they're used for a wrist strap or something you can tie to your hands, or they could be used for some kind of accessories. I mean, they do design it very well. The edges have nothing, but on the top you have your volume sliders, so you can slide it to change how high or low the volume you want. That's the headphone jack right here, I think. Yep. So you can use this to listen to your all your great audio, your stereo sounds in there. This little cover compartment here is for your extension cable. So if you take this out, there's a extension cable here where you can link to another Game Gear to have all your great multiplayer games that you want to play with friends. Here is the AC ports for the AC adapters. You can use this to plug into an outlet and play this at home if you want. The on and off switch. So if you turn that on, you can tell, yeah, the Game Gear is on. Fortunately, there's the contrast slider over here. I mean, if you turn the contrast slider, you can turn the contrast level to high or low you want to. And here's the cartridge slot. So yeah, similar to what the Game Boy did with its cartridge slot, you have to put your games facing back and then plug it in. There's no snap sound, so you probably just have to trust that it makes a connection. And when you turn it on, it should look a little bit like this. And if it doesn't have any picture, that's because your game doesn't connect very well. So you have to keep on trying. I don't know why it doesn't work. I'll have to give it a blow. I mean, people seem to avoid blowing games. I say if it makes the game works, then it makes the game works. So it'll take a few tries. This is a really old Game Gear, so it doesn't seem like it'll work. There it is. Now it works. Of course, it doesn't load the game, so sometimes you had to give it more than 1 or 2 or maybe 3 or 4 tries. And the camera sucks too, though it doesn't really help the Game Gear that much. There it goes. Now it's working. Let's see if the game loads. It'll take a while for it to load though. Come on, load. That's the problem with old Game Gear like this, is that the components inside the Game Gears are very old technology now. So the more you play it, the more wears and tears it has. And there's going to be a lot of times where games were not going to load or do anything. really makes me mad when something as simple as turning the system on will not work. There it is. Hopefully it loads. Come on, load. There it is. Yeah, now it loads. And you can see that nice little backlit screen right there. It has a lot of blur and glare, so I have to turn that down a little bit. Yeah, it has a lot of blurs and glares, but that's how the Game Gear looks. Let's press start. This game was also ported to the Sega Master System as well, but the Master System version never came to the US, so Sonic the Hedgehog 2 here is actually more of a Game Gear exclusive here in the US. Yeah. Not the best Sonic game on the Game Gear, but it is good for what it is. And it's not a port of the Genesis version, so don't be thinking that you will be able to play as Tail in this game. Tail is basically there for reference only, I think, or as a cameo. Yeah, it doesn't help justice when playing this kind of game. Oh man. Yeah, anyways, that's the Game Gear right here. Fortunately, this is not the only Game Gear that I have though. I also have this backlit Game Gear. This is the modified Game Gear. So if we're gonna test game, we'll be testing this one. We'll be testing on this one better. They have exactly the same game though, so we'll have to just put this one away. We'll compare those two afterwards, but if you turn it on, it looks like this. And now you can see a better, clearer pictures of the game. Of course, the stereo sound, turn it down a little bit, but yeah. So if you modify your Game Gear, it should have a much better, clearer pictures. Yeah, look at that. That's good, huh? And since it's used this backlit screen here, a modified one, it kind of gives you a longer battery life with it too. The battery life on this newer modified Game Gear is it could last up to at least 7 to 8 hours of gameplay. It depends on what kind of batteries that you use it on, but it's definitely longer than what the original Game Gear was lifespan was. So if I could turn both of them on, we can compare the two. Fortunately, both of them seem to have the same problem. So here's that one, and here's that one. So you can tell that there they are. Fortunately, this one does not load at all. So there they are. You can tell the difference between both of them. So on top you have the non-modified Game Gear, and on the bottom you have the modified Game Gear. I wish I could put them side by side, but I mean, if you side by side they look like this. But if you put them on top of each other, they look kind of like that. And you can tell this one has a lot of blurs and glare. The bottom one has glares but no blur, so has a much better screen too. So which one would you rather have? You rather have the modified one, or you rather have this one? Anyways, yeah, so this is the Game Gear. This is Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Game Gears. There's other games in the Game Gear library which we could try, like Power Rangers here. So if you turn it on, let's play a few rounds with this game. Like I said, this is old technology, so the system won't load the game every single time. Yeah, here it is. Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, best ever game on the Game Gear. So let's play story mode. And we're fighting King Sphinx. I'll choose Jason. Alright, and we're fighting some putties here. This is much more, a little bit similar to a beat-em-up game, but in a fighting game kind of style way. You can perform moves with it too. I wish they made more Power Ranger games in this style. I mean, a lot of these modern Power Ranger games are not that good. I mean, you fight the putty for a while and then King Sphinx would jump out, and then you fight him for a while and maybe Godar will jump out sometimes too. And after you beat him as a... yeah, Godar will come out sometimes. But once you fight them for a while down here, then eventually Rita will transfer them into giant size, and then you have to fight them with your Zords. That's the best part. You also have Zord fights in this game. It took a while to kill all the putties though. I don't know why they have a whole ton of putties for you to fight, when they could have just used King Sphinx from the beginning. Makes it more like a beat 'em up rather than a fighting game. But this time it's actually more like a fighting game. If you fail to beat King Sphinx while he's here, then you have to fight more putties. Eventually he'll jump back, more putties will jump in, and then he'll jump back again later, and then eventually once he's defeated as this characters, then you can fight him a giant size with your Zords. The final boss in this game is basically Cyclopsis, and in that one you do have to fight with your Zords. So you have the Dino Megazord and the Dragon Zord to fight him with. Okay, there he goes. Now we have to fight him on the giant size. So we have to use our Zord this time. Oh, there it is. Make my monster grow. And there it is. So we're fighting him. We're fighting both him and Godar with the Dino Megazords. Fortunately, Godar's a coward, so you fight him for a while and then he eventually go away. He'll eventually be defeated later on though, but I mean, yeah, there it is. He's here to waste our time, so. Remember, I used to be so good with this game. This game is also very fun to play too, right? And much more fun to play than the Genesis version. And even better than the Super Nintendo version too, I think. I have not played the Game Boy version yet, so I don't know if that one's good or not. Yeah, look at that. Ah. I love holding this Game Gear the way it is. It's much more comfortable. It's not as cramped as the Game Boy, as the Game Boy's design. I mean, with the Game Boy, you got your hands all tangled and stuff. But with this Game Gear, your two hands are opposite side of the systems, and it's very comfortable to hold. Come on, die, Sphinx. There he goes. Do we power sword him? Ah, you just explode. But yeah, that's a good game right here. That's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for the Game Gear. Yeah, thanks to this modified Game Gear here, I was able to show you footage from a lot of these cool games. Here's another game, Bonkers. Let's see if that one works. It's not really that good of a game, but it is interesting, so. Fortunately, if only this Game Gear works all the time. The only thing is, I just don't like how most of them doesn't load up the way I want it to. Pretty much same thing happened with the Game Boy sometimes too. You put the game in there and you're not really sure if it makes an accurate connection or not. Sometimes you just have to trust that it'll work. So you can try like multiple times and wish it'll work. And eventually sometimes you might get lucky that it will work and sometimes it don't. And this one does work, so. I don't think that's how the graphics look, so let's try it again. It looks glitchy and stuff. I'm pretty sure it looks better than that. Come on. Or not. I don't get it. Does it look glitchy like that or something? I don't remember Bonker looking that ugly. Let's blow it and try it again. I mean, if they look all glitchy and ugly like that, there's probably something wrong with the game connection, so. There it is, the Sega logo. That proves that it will look good. Let's see. Yep, it is. Look at that golden Disney logo. Yeah, this is how it should look, not the way it was before. So there it is, Bonkers Whack Up. Alright, let's see how it plays. I eventually never played this game before, so hopefully it's good. Oh, there it goes. It's more like a platformer. A kind of Discovery little platformer, I think. I'm basically going up ladders and stuff. Maybe you had to enter one of these doors, perhaps? Ah, let's collect these. Anyways, I don't know how to play this game. Eventually, someday, I'll try to see if I could. I mean, get used to it, but yeah, that's Bonkers Whack Up right there. It's a good thing we found out that it's not that crappy kind of games. Because if it does look crappy like before, then that's gonna be something disappointing. We also have Aladdin for the Game Gear, and this game plays nothing like the Genesis or Super Nintendo version. It's actually its own version, so that's a good thing. Like I said, I don't like how the Game Gear does not load the game when I want it to, so this will always take a while for me to load them. Eventually we'll try 2 more games after this, then we can call it quits. Here it is, here's Aladdin. Or maybe 3 games, if we still have time. Now after that I can show you some comparison between this, some concise comparison between the Game Gear and all those other handheld I have. There it is, Disney's Aladdin. So the first level here is an on-rail level, I think. So you basically had to avoid anything that comes to your way. Oh shit. Oh my god. Yeah, I'm not really ready for this level yet, so let's try again. Now don't think that all the levels are like this though. I mean, they're more platformers than they are on-rail. It's just this first level that's like this. Something to start off with. I mean, the first movie does have these people chasing after you, so. Oh my god, they have a lot of things at you. Oh my god, he's coming. He's coming. There he is. Hopefully I can make it. I don't want to be on rail all the time, so. Come on, where's that rolling barrel? Oh, come on. There it goes. It's a very challenging level too. Ah, stop chasing me. How do I ever gonna get to the end? So many barrels. I mean, come on, what does this game look like? Donkey Kong Country or something? There's not supposed to be that many barrels. Alright, there's Jasmine. We're gonna pretty much have to help her. And they thought that she's a street rat, so they're gonna like bust her up. And we're pretty much here to prevent that, I think. And now she joins the race. Yeah, so pretty much she and me are running from the law. Like I said, don't think that the whole game is gonna be like this though. It's not like this. It's just these earlier levels are like this. Unfortunately, I never did get past any of these two levels, so I'm hoping that all levels are not like this. Doesn't look like anyone's chasing after us. It's just that we're running from something. Hopefully the next two levels are not like that. Come on, Aladdin, do something. Yeah, there he goes. Now she's do something. I love how they do all these little cutscenes here. Alright, there she is. Now let's get out of here. So, let's see. How's the third level? Let's skip the cutscenes. And here it is. See? Now we're not on rail. We are actually platforming now. I just love a lot of these levels. How are we gonna jump to the other side? Oh, there it goes. Okay. There it goes. Now it plays a lot more like flashbacks a little bit. I have to get used to that platforming. Eventually we'll get through with that later, but yeah, Aladdin for the Game Gear. Really fun game if you know how to play it. So 2 more games and then we can call it quits. And as always, or 3 more games. Yeah, as always, we're gonna have some of my favorite games in the mix too, like Samurai Showdown here. Now this plays nothing like the Game Boy version, so I just hope that it's a good game though. So when I say nothing like the Game Boy version, that means that the game looks and plays nothing like it. I mean, it plays more homage to the console version than it is the Game Boy one. It doesn't have super deformed sprites like the Game Boy one. But you do have a fair amount of characters though. Like 10 of them actually. So, and the sound does sound really good too. I mean, everything looks okay. And continue. We can have infinite continue. I don't know if that's infinite or no continue. I'm not sure, but yeah, there it is. There's 10 characters. We're missing 3 of them, but that's okay. It's still good. So I'll pretty much choose Jubei. The only thing that's kind of bothered me a little bit is the sprites. So you can tell they flicker sometimes. And the very, very pixelated. But for Game Gear, it's okay though. So yeah. You only have 2 buttons. You have a slash and a kick. And you can tap both of them for a strong slash too, I think. There he goes. Yeah. Come on. I don't get why my projectile just disappeared like that for a while. I mean, it travels to the ground. It's almost like it just dissolved. So between this and the Game Boy version, which one is the better one? Well, to me, I actually prefer the Game Boy one because the Game Gear one is very glitchy sometimes. So as much as I want to play this, I think this one, yeah, there's nothing wrong with the gameplay. It's just that the frame rate is kind of a little bit on the downside. It's very pixelated and the music aren't that good compared to the Game Boy version. But it is fun to play if you need a handheld that can like kill times. But yeah, it is a fun game sometimes. So other than that, we have Mortal Kombat 2, another fun game. Now, like I said, Mortal Kombat 2, there is no version that I think of that. There's no version of Mortal Kombat 2 out there that I think will ever suck. So every versions of Mortal Kombat 2 on any system is good. And that's the best thing about Mortal Kombat 2 here. I mean, I can pretty much go out, grab any versions of Mortal Kombat 2, play it on its respectful platforms, and it'll turn out great. It's not, and not only that, it has all the content that it should have on each of those versions. So the Game Boy version will have at least 8 characters. Same thing for the Game Gear version. All the other console version will have 12 characters and all the stages and all the levels and fatalities and all that stuff. You don't feel like you get ripped off like a lot of the stuff that they do nowadays with Mortal Kombat X and that stupid Combat Pack 2 and all that stuff. So with Mortal Kombat 2, this is actually good. I mean, I really feel sorry for those PC people who get left out of the Combat Pack 2 and all of those that Mortal Kombat XL thing. I mean, I haven't bought a Mortal Kombat game since Armageddon, so I do play Mortal Kombat 9 and X, and the way I play it, I love those games, but I don't love all the practice that goes into them. So there might be a time where I might collect some of them or 2 of them to play with, but fortunately for now, retro Mortal Kombat games are what I'm aiming for. So I'm aiming to get at least a few of them that I could play with. And Mortal Kombat 2 here is pretty good because I can pick up any version and I'll know that they're good. There's no version at all that I could ever think of that's bad. So props to Midway for actually doing that, for all of its developer that actually made Mortal Kombat 2 good. And I'm not sure why all other Mortal Kombat games tend to suck when Mortal Kombat 2 is pretty good. I don't know why, but they should have improved all their future Mortal Kombat games from Mortal Kombat 2. Instead, they took it to another direction and it just went like the quality just suffers sometimes. But with Mortal Kombat 2 here, everything is good and I love it. Let's see how good it plays on the Game Gear. So here is Mortal Kombat 2. And if I should compare this to the Game Boy version, I had to say this one is almost as good as that one, or pretty much almost the same quality as that one. The only thing difference between this and the Game Boy version is that, well, aside from the colors and the backlit screen, this one has Kintaro that you can fight against. The Game Boy version does not have Kintaro. So, yeah. I'll choose Reptile and see how he plays. Yeah, look at that. No, the graphics is not the best, but what do you expect from an 8-bit system? There he goes. Yeah, all the moves came out quite alright. Let's see if I could do his fatality. I mean, doing fatality on the handheld is pretty much what will make or break this game. The control is also the one thing too. I mean, the frame rate is a little bit woggy at times, or wobbly at times, but it's no problem. As long as the gameplay works good. And there's no problem with the gameplay at all. Oh my gosh. I only have like 5 little seconds to do it too, so. It only has 2 levels in this game, but that's alright. It's a handheld system, so that's okay. Ah, Jax. Oh, come on. There he goes. Fight! Yeah. Ah, I really wish they put Johnny Cage in this game too. I want to see how his split punches looks like in a game like this. I mean, Johnny Cage was original Mortal Kombat game. Ah, there it is. Now I can eat his face off. Instead of eating his head, Reptile pretty much eat the entire body. And that's a good thing because you don't want to waste a perfectly good body right there. So that's Mortal Kombat 2 on the Game Gear. That's really great. I mean, there's nothing really wrong about any of the control gameplay here. It plays just fine. Plays out almost as good as the Game Boy version. Plays nothing better than the console version, but what do you expect? You want Mortal Kombat to go, you have Mortal Kombat to go right here. So that's good. And now let's try Lion King. Lion King is different on all of those systems, so it's pretty much the same on Genesis and Super Nintendo, but on Game Gear and Game Boy it's actually a very different game, and that's okay because different is what makes it interesting. Ah, now look at that. Now it's loading the way we wanted. That's good. Let's see how it plays. And there it is. Made by the same people that made the console version. Ah, look at that. A very different intro. I love this intro with the sun. Alright, so let's press start. Yeah, it even has Timon talking like that too. Okay, starts the same way, almost similar to how the console started too. So that's our power up. Oh, what's that? That must be some poison ivy or something. Yeah, I forgot, the level is not the same as what it was on the console, so even though it looks the same, the level design and the map is different, so. Oh my gosh. I kept thinking it was like the console version. Ah, how you get up there? How you get up there? Come on, Simba, grab. I don't get why he can't grab like it was in the console. These are very, very different levels. Now he could. Okay. How you go this? There he goes. There he goes. Come on, jump up there. I don't know. This is a big leap of faith. I don't know which side to jump. This way or that way, huh? It's very confusing. I'll jump that way this time. Or maybe not. Come on, Simba. How you not be able to jump up there? Anyways, I'll eventually have to check this level out later. But that's the Lion King for the Game Gear. So that's pretty much all of the game that I can showcase to you guys. Also have these other games too, like Super Colin, but this game is not that interesting. So it's kind of like a Tetris clone, but actually doesn't play like Tetris that much. Just have to match the colors instead of like clearing lines and stuff. But yeah, this is the Game Gear. There's two of them, so the modified one and the non-modified one. Don't think that Game Gear will have the light like this though. If you bought an original Game Gear, it'll look more like this one where it has the blurry glaring screen, backlit screen, color screen, everything screen. This one, if you could modify it, it'll have a much better, clearer, beautiful screen, and it'll still not glare as much, but you get a better screen and some better battery life. You still have to use 6 batteries though, so that's one thing, but that's okay considering that this will up the experience a little bit. I mean, all of the back capacitors were taken out and they were modified with much up-to-date capacitor now. All the components in here, some of them has been replaced, and the screen has been replaced too, so this will last me for a long time. This one, however, I'm not really sure how long it'll last though. Someday, whenever this reaches its limit, whenever the time comes that all of these will be broken and stuff, I'll probably have to modify this to become this too. So either that or I'll sell this away somewhere. I mean, maybe somebody will buy it, but right now it's still good. I still want to play it and compare it with this one from time to time too. I mean, the control on this one still works better than that one though. This one, the start button doesn't work quite as well, but everything is still intact though. So that's a good thing on the Game Gear. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have on the Game Gear aspect of these stuff. So for a little bit comparison, we're gonna compare the Game Gear to all of those other handheld that we have so far. So if you already seen it, here's how it compares to the Game Boy. Let's get a closer look at these two couple here. They almost look like couple, huh? Yep, so as you can tell, the way they look from that side to that side, yeah, so that's how it looks compared to the Game Boy. Let's see, to the 3DS, pretty much almost the same, but I think the 3DS is much thinner. Yeah, and it's kind of smaller too than the Game Gear compared to the original GBA. The original GBA is much smaller too, and a lot less bulkier too on the depth there compared to the clone, the Revo clone. Now the Revo is the pretty much smallest too, and like before, it's also thinner. I mean, the Game Gear could pretty much crush it. So yeah, but it does have almost the same control layouts. It's just that the Revo has 4 buttons and a shoulder buttons. So yeah, that's how they compare. Compared to that crappy Gamecom Pocket Pro. I mean, not really that much crappy, but yeah, as you can tell, yeah, that's how it goes. Have 4 button here. The depth, the Game Gear still wins it by a few miles. Compared to that cheap Chinese handheld. You can tell this one is very small. It's almost the same size as the screen there. And the depth, I mean, nobody beats the Game Gear's depth, right? However, compared to our very great Neo Geo Pocket, these two are almost like brothers, if you can tell, except that the Game Gear has a D-pad, whereas the Neo Geo Pocket has this nice arcade sticks. That is awesome, man. I still play this from time to time too. And compare the depth, I think the Neo Geo Pocket color is kinda up there. I'm just glad that this one is actually Pocket and this one is not. But yeah, they have almost exactly the same layout. Look at that, the 2 buttons are almost exactly the same, except that the Game Gear has concave buttons, whereas the Neo Geo Pocket color has convex, and the power buttons up here. So yeah, the Neo Geo Pocket color doesn't have a start button actually. I mean, the option button must have been its start button, I guess. But yeah, that's how they compare. So let's see how it compares to this one, the Retro Dual Portable here. So yeah, as you can tell, the Retro Dual Portable is kinda almost exactly the same. Almost exactly the same, actually. The only thing is, I think the depth on it has these grooves that lets you hold it really good too. And it has a bigger screen, bigger than the Game Gear too, I think. So yeah, but it's not as heavy as the Game Gear, so that's a plus on the retro dual side. But on the back side, actually, it's much more bulkier than the Game Gear. So yeah, this has the game sticking out, and this doesn't. So same thing with the Superboy. I thought if any handheld could beat the Game Gear in size, I think the Superboy is a close contender. So you can tell, look at that. Superboy pretty much crushed the Game Gear in the size department there. I mean, this thing is not portable. I mean, you can call it portable you want, but everything about this handheld screams bulkiness. The only thing is, even if it's bulkier than the Game Gear, it's not as heavy, so there's literally no heaviness in this system. Whereas this one, it's very heavy. You can tell all the components, all the game components are still in there, whereas this one doesn't. And for a much humongous surprise, let's compare it to its younger brother, the Nomad. And you can tell, look at that, the Nomad is very huge. If you add a battery pack to the back of the Nomad, it's super bulky. It's kind of sad because they don't have a battery compartment for the Nomad over here. You have to use the battery pack all the time. So if you can compare the dead, look at that, man, it's so huge. And on top of here too, you not only do you have the game sticking out, but you have the bulkiness design up there too. And from side to side, this side, the back side. I mean, look at its younger brother is bulkier than itself. So yeah, and the Nomad is the only handheld that actually has 6 face buttons, so that's a good thing on the Nomad. The only thing is, this Nomad here eats a whole chunk of batteries. Unfortunately, this one that I'm holding right now is a modified Nomad, so it doesn't drain that many batteries at all. But my original Nomad, the non-modified one, eats battery like crazy, man. Up to 2 hours at the most. And yeah, that's pretty much all I could compare with the Game Gear right here. So if I have to give this a grade, however, I would give it a definite A-. It doesn't deserve a B. It owns itself to get an A- because it actually went one-on-one with the Game Boy and actually succeeded in destroying the other handhelds at the time too. So it actually beats out the Lynx, beats out the Turbo Express, and I'm sure any other Chinese handheld that they have at the time too. I mean, it doesn't have the game sticking out. You could buy a Master System converter for this system and play your Master System games in here too, which doubles its library a little bit. You can use a battery pack, rechargeable battery packs, and use that to give your game a little play on the go. But yeah, those rechargeable battery packs are very expensive though, and hard to find nowadays. So if you can find one, then good for you. There's also a TV tuner accessory they have for this thing too, which allows you to watch your favorite TV show with this little screen here. I mean, now I have a modified one. It would be great to have that thing. On a non-modified one, it'll be stupid to use it, but with this one, it'll be great. I mean, you can play your Xbox and watch how you play in this system right here too, or play your system like the PS4, PS3, your Wii and Wii U, your GameCube, your Dreamcast. I mean, it'll be great if you can see how your Dreamcast game looks on the Game Gear. Imagine playing Shenmue on this thing. That'd be great. Not using these controllers, but actually seeing Shenmue in this liquid crystal screen here. Oh man, that's good. So Game Gear, I give it an A-. It's an interesting little handheld. Good for Sega for trying to get into the the handheld market at the time. It's definitely, until the PSP, this is the best contender that ever fought the Game Boy, or Nintendo's handheld for that matters. So props to the Game Gear for that. And yeah, so this is the end of the first week for Sega Month. Join me next week, and I can tell you more about all the other Sega stuff that I have, and that includes the Sega 32X, the Sega Saturn, all those 3D Sega games, and more. So yeah, I'm Voan, and I'll see you later. You have a great day.